the Sun. In reality, it's massive. In Minecraft, we make it the entire world height. 382 blocks in diameter. On this scale, how big is our Earth? How big are other planets? Their moons? How far is everything from each other? How far away is the nearest other star? In this video, we will find out. We begin our solar journey at Mercury, the closest planet to the Sun and smallest recognized planet in the solar system. It may come as a surprise that at this scale, Mercury is only 10 blocks in diameter, 180 blocks away from the Sun. Oh no, sorry. It's actually just 1 block in diameter, 18,000 blocks away. This is so far away that at a standard Java 32 chunk max render distance, we can't even see the Sun from Mercury 37 times over. This is just a little fake makeshift sun I made to simulate what's the Sun's angular size from each planet, since we can't see the real one. Our second stop is Venus, 29,600 blocks away from the Sun. The hottest planet in the solar system is about 3 blocks across. Of course, properly it should look like this, without the corners, but I hope you get why I went with a cube instead. Venus is often depicted as this deep red hell planet, and it is hell, but its correct color, as viewed from space, is actually this. It's its thick atmosphere, which is actually the reason it's so hot, not the Sun. And now, we head to the most important planet of them all. The harbor of all known life in the universe. The Earth is, on this scale, not this big at all. This is a fake larger Earth and Moon I built next to the Sun, which you saw on the thumbnail. And although they're in fact not this big compared to the Sun, or this close to each other, the Earth and Moon sizes compared to each other are to scale. And so are all Earth's continents. The actual Earth is 41,000 blocks away from the Sun and a little less flashy. It's just 4 blocks wide, and that's stretching it. The Moon is a single block 105 blocks away, and despite that, the bodies are so coincidentally placed that the Sun's and Moon's sizes from the Earth are almost exactly identical. That's why solar eclipses work, but are also extremely rare. This is us. This is everything we ever knew, and you and I will ever know. This is the Earth, and this is the farthest any human has ever been from it. First planet behind Earth is Mars. 2 blocks in diameter, 66,000 blocks from the Sun. It is the second smallest planet in the solar system, but more importantly, the furthest rocky planet. All the ones that will follow are gas giants, which makes Mars the only realistic place for humans to potentially inhabit if we aspire to become a multi-planetary species. Although it would take a bit of geoengineering, Mars currently sits on the outer edge of Sun's habitable zone and will only shift inwards as the Sun continues to expand in the millions of years to come. And by leaving Mars and crossing the asteroid belt, we move into a completely different new zone of solar real estate. Jupiter, the largest planet in the solar system. 213,000 blocks away from the Sun, 38 blocks in diameter. Still, expressed as a percentage of all object mass in the solar system, Jupiter is roughly 0.1%. 99.86% belongs to the Sun, and the remaining 0.04% is mostly Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. The system's rocky planets, among other smaller objects, are negligible. Despite that, Jupiter is its own massive satellite system. The Jovian system contains 4 moons massive enough to be round and to fit on our scale. Ganymede is the largest moon in the solar system, larger than the smallest planet itself, Mercury. Callisto's orbit is so far away from Jupiter, we need a render distance expansion to see Jupiter from its surface. Io is yellow because of its ferocious sulfuric volcanic activity, and Europa is Jupiter's icy moon, which scientists claim to be the likeliest object in our solar system outside of Earth to contain life in its deep underground oceans. Jupiter is the last planet we are able to portray Sun's visible size from, since by the time we get to Saturn, the Sun will no longer be big enough to be even somewhat close to 1 block at the edge of max render distance. Jupiter is also the closest object in the solar system to become a star alongside the Sun. However, for us to live in a double star system, Jupiter would need to accumulate about 76 times its current mass to become dense enough in its core to sustain nuclear fusion and become a red dwarf. And that is beyond unlikely to ever happen. Almost double the distance remote from the Sun lies Saturn. Nearly 400,000 blocks away, what makes the 32 block wide second largest planet in the solar system the more iconic one of the 2 giants are its massive, spectacular dust rings. Thought to be the remains of an ancient moon of Saturn that drifted beyond its Roche limit, the rings are mostly ice and on average only about 20 meters thick. And although they are currently one of the biggest icons in our solar system, the rings are estimated to have been there for only the last 100 million years. Just 1/45th of Saturn's entire existence. And with the current rate of ring rain, they could be invisible to the naked eye in about a similar time span. Although Saturn has even more minuscule objects orbiting it considered as moons than Jupiter, and more moons massive enough to be round, among the biggest moons, it's not that big of a party. Titan is the second largest moon in the solar system. still bigger than Mercury. A moon believed to have a thick nitrogen atmosphere, flowing methane and ethane surface lakes and rivers, the only other object than Earth in the solar system to have surface lakes and rivers of any kind, and a deep salty water ocean beneath its crust. Rhea, Iapetus, Dione, and Tethys would all be only about as big as a conduit. Saturn is the last and furthest planet from Earth discovered with an unaided human eye, and so by moving further, we already reach out of this simple human scope. Seventh planet from the Sun is Uranus. 14 blocks in diameter, 800,000 blocks from the center of the solar system. Double the distance to Saturn and quadruple to Jupiter. We are now in the very outer solar system. A very dim and cold area dominated by two significantly smaller than previous planet giants. However, there's one thing we need to get right. If you've been imagining gassy planets as only gas and something you can just fly all the way through, you've been imagining it wrong. All gas planets have a solid rocky core. Not only that, the actual gas is only in the surface atmosphere and very upper layer of the mantle. Then the on-Earth gassy elements liquefy and solidify under immense pressure and heat. So if you flew into a gas planet with a spaceship, you would initially car through, but most certainly not make it past the mantle. Also, Uranus and Neptune alone are actually more often called ice giants rather than gas giants, since their inside is actually more methane, ice, and water in comparison to Jupiter and Saturn's hydrogen and helium because of their distance from the Sun and how the solar system was formed, even though it makes absolutely no difference to the rocket analogy. Similarly to all other planet giants, Uranus also has many satellite bodies, most notably its four biggest moons, Titania, Oberon, Umbriel, and Ariel. It also has very dark, thin, and faint, but visible rings. In fact, all gas giants actually have their own dust rings. However, Jupiter's and Neptune's are so insignificant, they're barely mentioned. Also, in reality, Uranus is actually rotated about 90 degrees on its axis, and so it looks more like this, with the rings and moons rotating up and down instead of side to side. However, with this, I've hit the Minecraft ceiling since there are no vertical slabs or any other way to solidly present this, so I was forced to go with this slight inaccuracy. Neptune is the last, 8th planet from the Sun. 1,226,000 blocks away, 14 blocks in diameter. Now, Neptune itself is not much different from Uranus. Their similarities are actually quite startling. They are almost identical in size, made up of roughly the same elements, and very similar in color. However, a treasure that lies within Neptune's proximity is its only big moon, Triton. As the 7th biggest moon in the solar system, there wouldn't be anything that special about it if it wasn't the only large moon in the solar system to orbit a planet in the opposite way of its rotation. Just prior to its birth, the solar system was a massive cloud of space matter rotating in one direction, gradually forming into the sun and the planets around it. That's why all planets orbit in one orientation, and all large moons orbit their planets in the course of their rotation. However, Triton is different. The most likely explanation is that it was not a moon from the beginning, but a rogue object that Neptune attracted with its gravity from the Kuiper Belt, a debris-heavy region of the solar system beyond Neptune's orbit, similar to the asteroid belt, only about 20 times wider. Both areas are homes of dwarf planets, objects that orbit directly around the sun and are massive enough to be round, however, not massive enough to have cleared their orbit from permanent debris. One of which is also Pluto. The former retired planet orbits on average 1.6 million blocks away from the sun and is only about as big as a Minecraft player head. Many people still, to this day, against better judgment, believe Pluto is the rightful 9th planet. However, not only would that mean another 4 confirmed and possibly tens or even hundreds more unconfirmed objects would also qualify for being planets. Just examining Pluto's unstable orbit, which at its farthest point overcomes 2 million blocks, but at its perihelion actually dips below Neptune's closest orbit, makes it clear why Pluto cannot be a planet on its own. And although it might seem like that hard locks the number of planets to 8 and the solar system is entirely discovered, that might not be the case. Not only are there sufficient signs and statistical probabilities of many more undiscovered dwarf planets in the Kuiper Belt and the Oort cloud, a debris-filled region of the solar system even farther out, stretching from its inner edge of 82 million blocks from the sun to its outer edge of 4 billion blocks, meaning at this scale, its entirety would be located outside of the Minecraft world border and is still all tied to sun's gravity. There are many theories and signs about entire new planets orbiting between those areas, gravitationally influencing the debris within them. The only reason we haven't found anything yet is the insufficiently scarce amount of light those regions receive, making discoveries from Earth nearly impossible. So, if the solar system's range is so incredibly large, how far is the closest other star? Well, 11 billion blocks, but that number is almost impossible to comprehend with a human brain, so let's bring it to a more familiar scale. If the sun was just one Minecraft block and we placed it in the very center of a Minecraft world, within the 30 million blocks around it lies the closest other star, Proxima Centauri, 28.8 million blocks away, and the binary double star system, Alpha Centauri, 29.7 million blocks away. Other stars wouldn't even be close to the world border. Sweet dreams.